Hello, I'm going to read something I just wrote about these so-called journalists talking about the men's human rights movement and a voice for men and MRAs in general, that we're misogynists and racists and terrorists. I'm just going to read this. Before I read this, I'm going to just mention I started a blog. It's at garycostanza.wordpress.com, I believe. Here's the title of this piece. Journalists make light of suicide, genital mutilation, and fraud. Say feminists are working on it. To the ideologues and hack journalists branding the MHRM and the International Conference on Men's Issues as misogynist and racist, Fell, Roy, Sewer, Goldwag, Potok, and Laxer, among others. I'll share a comment I've been making on the web to these journalists. Man, that was shockingly horrible reporting. Did you actually see the conference? Or were you just blind to the many black and female faces on the stage and in the audience? Did you miss the African-Canadian Senator Ann Cools? Or African-American Cornell Smith, who spoke about paternity fraud, which affects men and women? Or the cool African-American guy from Detroit, who I met and exchanged ideas with? Are you blind, dumb, or bigoted? Yeah, continue with my article. James Fell, Jessica Roy, Adam Serwer, Arthur Goldwag, Mark Potok, and Michael Laxer all make light of suicide, fraud, genital mutilation, and human rights abuses when they dismiss the MHRM. A Voice for Men had a conference addressing those issues, and these journalists decided to ignore the issues and declare it hate-filled and violent. Maybe they chose to ignore these issues because we care how they affect men and boys as well as women and girls, in which case that would be a hateful and bigoted stance. The conference was fantastic. The air was filled with warmth and, yes, love, alive with MRA activists, greeting and chatting with each other. Many in awe of the caliber of the talents we were talking with. I don't know where Roy's head was at. That's Jessica Roy. As the air inside was electric with thought, ideas, and discussions about answers to problems. And outside was sunshine, a lake, a gazebo, and a cool car show. It was wonderful. Maybe the bugs didn't like you, Jessica. They didn't bother me or anyone else. Or did you make that up too? The ICMI 2014 is on video in all its glory, so people can view it and judge for themselves. These people are ignorant of men's issues and the goals of the MHRM. They're oblivious to baby boys who are subjected to genital mutilation, sometimes fatally, against their will. They have no regard for people who care about men and boys killing themselves at vastly greater numbers than women. These are all human rights issues that I defy any of them to deny. Men and boys will have their own self-determination. How dare they tell us how to feel and think? Potok and the others say that MHRM isn't the answer, and that feminism is working on these problems. But according to feminists, men don't have problems. They are the problem. So it's obvious they have no interest in helping men and boys. I guess they would rather have men and boys man up and take it. Genital mutilation, suicide, loss of children and income, made to fight wars, etc. Funny, for so-called progressives, all of a sudden they sound like the people they most despise. Traditionalists. Like my AVFM t-shirt says, feminism is patriarchy and lipstick. What is the unquestioned and unchallenged male entitlement you refer to? As a journalist, you should have a basis for your statements. Do you mean entitlements such as being forced to fight wars while women aren't? Or how the government and society value my life as worth less than a woman's? Fuck that shit. Is routine genital mutilation of baby boys against their will, sometimes killing them, more entitlement? How about the moving video, Purple Heart's Final Beat, telling the story of wounded veterans stripped of everything by the very government they serve, resulting in mass suicides of huge proportions. Don't you think this is a legitimate men's issue worthy of our attention? Why the pushback? Why do feminists feel threatened? Is it that your core beliefs, heaven forbid, may not be right? Goldwag, here's a math problem for you. Start with the phenomena of positive pregnancy tests for sale on the internet. Honestly, I don't know how many of these are being sold, but I've heard of this. Add the other phenomena of laws being passed to outlaw DNA testing of the infants. More mother ownership, less freedom of speech. And the answer is paternity fraud. If a French woman claims Arthur Goldwag is the father of her unborn baby, he'd be on the hook for child support, as DNA testing is now illegal in France. You'd have to pay up Arthur or be called a deadbeat and maybe jailed. I'm just saying, there must be at least one French woman with no scruples, but with the law on her side. Claim your prize. Here's another human rights abuse. In Utah, a woman from anywhere can adopt out her baby from birth up to 6 months old without the father's permission or knowledge, legally. Where is the National Organization for Women and other feminists on this issue? Probably aligned against fathers as usual. Again, rather than male entitlement, I see feminists in society viewing women as the owners of children and fathers just a problem to brush aside. Are you journalists in favor of these human rights abuses? In what way are feminists helping us? Rather than joining us as you say you want to, all I see is bashback of the MHRM by bigoted ideologues. How about you get out of our way in our quest for self-determination and equality? Laxa, you could have been there. You were invited to give us your insight into the problems of men and boys and how to solve them through feminism. Oh, you'd rather shoot your darts from a safe distance rather than have a dialogue and an exchange of ideas. Also, the SPLC is lost in space. Saying a disturbed misanthrope like Elliot Rodger has anything to do with the MHRM is disingenuous at best and bigoted and hateful at worst.